Hey, welcome to another day, and today we're going to take a look at lines, okay? So a concept you're probably pretty familiar with, touching on something that you've probably seen both in geometry and algebra 2, so just make sure you're good at it. We'll go through it pretty quick, but just make sure if you have any questions, you let me know. Okay, so our first question here, is how are we going to find the slope? Okay, so I am guessing many of you have seen this formula before, but our formula for slope is just our y2 minus y1 all over the x2 minus x1. That's essentially your change in y over your change in x. Another way you have heard that, shoot, let me fix that y because that looks bad. Another way you have heard that is rise over run. Okay, all of this is the same concept. So for this first one here, we're asked to find the slope between the points 2, -5 and -4, -7. So if we make this our x1, our y1, then our x2 and our y2. So now we're going to go ahead and just find what the slope is. So m equals, now y2 minus y1, so -7 minus -5 all over -4 minus 2. Now remember, when it's minus and negative, it's the same as plus, okay? So that becomes -2 over -6. Now this will reduce, 2 goes into both 2 and 6, and the negatives will cancel, and we're left with just 1 over 3, or 1/3. Now, if one of you had chose to have your 2 -5 be your x2 and y2, it won't matter as long as you're consistent. Notice here, this is the one point, and this is the other point. They line up with each other. So the 2 -5 from right here, and then the -4, -7 from right here. Make sure it lines up and that it's with its partner point. Okay, so our next one here. Find the slope between the points 5, -10, and 5, 2. So, once again, if I were you, I'd go ahead and label your x1, y1, x2, y2, and then we'll just solve for the slope. So we'll go with 2 minus -10 all over 5 minus 5. Now minus minus becomes plus plus, so we get 12 over 0. Okay, now anytime we have 12 over 0, anytime we have a 0 on the bottom, red flags need to go off. We can't divide something by 0. If I have $12 and I'm trying to divide it between 0 people, that doesn't make sense, okay? So if we have a 0 on the bottom, that is going to be a special situation. UND stands for undefined. Okay, this would be an example. If you think about it, it's rise over run. So 12 up, so it goes straight up, and then it does not move left or right. Okay, this is undefined, and the reason, if you think back to the vertical line test to decide if something's a function, in our case, this line is not a function. So up here, 1 over 3, that would be like up 1 over 3. Oops, that's not a very good picture. Up 1 over 3, so it'll look something like this. Okay, if there's a 0 on the bottom for your slope, then it's going to be a vertical line. Okay, now if you get a 0 on top, that's horizontal. That would have a slope of 0. Okay, if we look over here at example 3 on the right side, this one has a slope of 0, and it's not going to be called undefined. That is possible. It's still a function, as the vertical line test, it still passes that. Okay, now I kind of jumped ahead here, but when we're trying to find the slope of the line, we'll do rise over run. So change in x, or change in y over change in x. So in this case, it's up 2 and then over 2 2 over 2, which is going to reduce to 1 as our answer. And this one, it was change in y was 0 over to the right. It was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Although really, you could have used any of the points along the line. So you could have 0 over 1, 0 over 10, any of those, but all of them will reduce down to 0. All right. So I know we're moving kind of fast, but that's because for the most part, this is a review. So if you need to rewind and watch it again, do that. If you have any questions, please send me an email. So this next one, slope-intercept form. Hopefully you remember this, y equals mx plus b. I mentioned it in our video the other day. Our m is our slope, and this b is our y-intercept. All right, so now we want to write this equation in slope-intercept form. So probably the easiest thing to tell is right there, the y-intercept is 2. Now we need to find the rise over run, or the slope, so up 1, 2, 3 over 1. So 3 over 1 for your slope. B is at 2. And so our equation will be y equals, you can either do 3 over 1 or just 3, x plus 2. Okay, so then double check it, and we're done. So for this next one, example 4 here, our y-intercept is at -3. Now this one does not have points on it. So in order to find the slope, just choose another point where it goes right through the corner there, where it's right on whole number points. And in this case, it'll be down 1, right 2. Another way to write that, down 1 is -1, right 2 is +2, so -1/2. And in our case, it'll be y equals -1 over 2x minus 3. And that's our equation for that line. Okay, so now flip it over to the back, and these were writing equations when we had a graph. Sometimes we don't have a graph. And if we are given the slope and the y-intercept, it's pretty easy. We just put it in the slope-intercept form. However, sometimes we are given a point and the slope. So then we're going to use point slope here. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And then we want to get our final answer back into slope-intercept form. So if we think about this, our 2 is our m. This 3 is our x1. This -1 is our y1. So we'll do y minus -1 equals 2 times the quantity, x minus 3. Okay, from here, both of these will be plus, so y plus 1 equals, distribute that 2 in, 2x minus 6. And then we have one more thing to do, minus the 1. And our final answer, y equals 2x minus 7. Okay, so if you want to graph this, you can. However, you don't need to, but it's going to look something down here, -7, and it's going to be going up to the right, something like that. Okay, so now, example 6 here. Same idea, except this time our slope is a fraction. Okay, so what we can do, still set it up the same. So y minus the y value, which in our case the y1, x1. So y minus -5 equals 3 over 4 times x minus -7. Now, it's up to you. You can either distribute that in and keep it, or some of you probably prefer to kind of clear your fractions, okay? If you know what I mean by that, that's fine. You can do that. So plus, we get y plus 5. Then here, we'll distribute this in, and we'll have 3/4 x. Then that becomes plus. 7 is the same as 7 over 1. So then it's essentially 3/4 times 7 over 1 We multiply across the top and across the bottom, and we get 3/4 x plus 21 over 4. Now, both of these are over 4. So if I multiply the right side by 4, let me do this in a different color. Then that will cancel out with both of those. However, if I multiply the right side by 4, I also need to multiply the left side by 4. So we're going to be left with 4y plus 20 equals 3x plus 21. Subtract the 20 there. And we have 4y equals 3x plus 1. Divide by 4. We have to divide both of those. And we are left with y equals 3/4 x plus 1/4. Okay, so in our case here, it doesn't have kind of a perfect y-intercept. It's not a whole number, but that's okay. Sometimes that happens. Fractions exist; they're part of the world, and sometimes when we try to represent the world, that will happen. Okay, so once again, what we did over there, we cleared the fractions to make it a little easier. I don't care if you do it with the fractions the whole time, but if it helps you, make a note, clear the fractions like that. The reason we could do that is because both of those had the 4. Okay. You also could clear it right here before you distribute it in if that's easier for you. It's kind of personal preference on when you clear the fraction. Okay. So now, the final type, well, I guess we've got 2 more. This next one says write the equation of a line that passes through the point -2, 4, and 3, -1. So in this case, we need to first find the slope. So find the slope first. And then once we have the slope, we can use point slope and use either of those points. So then we'll do point slope. So it does not matter which one's your x1, your y1, as long as you choose one. So I'll just do x1, y1, x2, y2. And we got to find their slope first. So m equals, it'll be -1 minus 4 all over 3 minus -2. So -1 minus 4 is -5 all over 3 plus 2 gives us 5. That reduces to a slope of -1. Okay, now we need to plug it into our slope-intercept form. Okay, so into point-slope form and convert it to slope-intercept form. So we'll do y minus 4. I'm going to use this point right here. If you chose to use the other point, that's fine, as long as you use one of your points. I don't know what that was. So y minus 4 equals, for the m, we put our slope, -1, and then x minus -2. So y minus 4 will stay here. We're going to distribute this in. Minus minus becomes +2. So y minus 4 minus x minus 2. And from here, all we have to do is add the 4. And now we have y equals, and in this case, it'll be -x plus 2. Okay, so this last one. Write the equation of this line below. Okay, so it looks pretty simple. The only thing that's difficult, if you'll notice here, is it does not look like the slope-intercept is right on a point. It's not a whole number. Okay, so that makes it a little more difficult to graph. So, or to write the slope of. So first what we should do is establish what are these 2 coordinates, these 2 different points. So this first one is 4, 6. And the second one looks like 7, 5. All right, now you can either use those 2 points and solve for the slope like we've been doing, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. The easier way, when you have a picture though, is just find your rise over run. So down 1 right 3. And that's the same, so we're saying our slope is -1 over 3. Okay, so from here now we can set it up, use either one of those points. Now here's a little hint. If there's something divisible by 3, since that's our denominator, I'm going to choose to use that one. But you could use either one and still get the right answer. So now I'll do y minus 6 equals -1/3, and then x minus 4. Now, as you see in this one, since the 6 was on the other side, it didn't really even help us that it was divisible. So it's up to you. You can either distribute this in first, like we did on the other problem, or you can clear it first. Either way, I'll get the same answer. On this one, I'm going to clear it first. So if I clear it, I'll times by 3. That'll cancel out. Now I have to times the other side by 3. So I'll get 3y minus 18 equals -1 times x minus 4. Okay, now distribute that -1 in. So we'll have 3y minus 18 equals -x plus 4. We'll add the 18. 3y equals -x plus 22. And then the only step left, divide all the parts by 3. And our final answer, y equals -1 over 3x plus 22 over 3. So, fractions, I'm guessing, are going to give us a little trouble here. Keep practicing. Once again, let me know if you have any questions. Just so you guys can kind of plan ahead, our test is coming up September 4th. So not this Friday, but the next one. Okay. Have a great day. Bye.